Hi students, I am Professor Dr. Anurag Agarwal and this is OSN Academy of English since 1998. As you must be watching on the screen that today I am going to take a very special session for all the DSSB PGT students of English literature who are very keen to join OSN Academy classes for DSSB. So I received so many calls and messages in the last 1 week. Many of you have joined. For that, congratulations that you have chosen the best academy. For those who have still not joined and those who requested sir to take a live class to see that how sir has been teaching. So for the request to be done, I am here with all of you to take a very important session which you can see in your syllabus, and in the last it is written modern writing in English और लास्ट में देखिए लिखा है साउथ एशिया, दैट इज साउथ एशियन लिटरेचर. In spite, you must be feeling that the syllabus is small. No, the syllabus is not small. Why? Because the first point which you are watching in the syllabus is about the history of English literature. And you all know that the history of English literature covers a wide area of the entire world, right from the Anglo-Saxon period to the postmodern, which all is taught in your class. Then you have the grammar portion. And then comes the literature where you have been given the Shakespeare's works, the Romantic period with Shelley, Wordsworth, Keats and Coleridge, 19th and 20th American English literature, where you are going to get the classes on Robert Frost, Hemingway, Walt Whitman, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Emily Dickinson, Bernard Shaw, Arthur Miller, and so much. Then we have the modern Indian writing in English with Anita Desai, Vikram Seth, Nazim Ezekiel, K.N. Daruwala, Ruskin Bond, R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, and Khushwant Singh. Last but not the least, modern writing in English consists of the other parts of the world like Latin America, African, Australian, and South Asia. So my dear students of DSSB, it is a great opportunity to qualify this examination in the first attempt. The only thing which you have to do is to have faith in my classes, in my guidance, in my expertise of teaching 26 years of literature. So this is a batch which is going to make you excel like anything, and with a fees which you cannot even believe, such a small remuneration which students pay for this batch. You have to only download the application OSN Academy. You can even take the direct links on the WhatsApp number given above, and then you can see the level of excellence. My dear students, come live here so that we may communicate and start our session on South Asian literature. आप अपने दिल पे हाथ रख के पूछिए कि कितने बच्चों को साउथ एशिया लिटरेचर कहीं पे यूनिवर्सिटी में या कहीं पढ़ाया गया है, which is in your syllabus. So why students study with OSN? Because they know, they have blind faith कि यहाँ पे जो भी बैच होगा 100% class coverage will be there, and I take a special thing, a special protection for the students कि अगर उनको कोई भी दिक्कत है, so I am there to help them with any PDF, with any help, guidance, anything. They cannot be left alone in the literature world, and believe me, it is Dr. Agarwal's statement and my promise. I am very much sure that you all know very well about OSN. So Rajni and Rajni Raji Dev, okay, you had taken my study material packet well, and I hope आपने लिखा भी है कि आपको बहुत अच्छा लगा था. And yes, I know this, that whoever students are going to study with OSN, they are actually going to excel, whether they take the books or the classes. So let us start with the South Asian literature. Again, I am writing South literature. Every student of English literature can attend this class right from the TGT to the IES level. Though this is in the DSSSB, that is why I have written, otherwise it is for all the students of English literature who can enjoy this session. Download the application, share the link to the WhatsApp group, to your colleagues, to your juniors, to your friends, and like the channel, subscribe the channel so that you may get the notification always. Amar Singh and Yasha, good morning all of you. जल्दी जल्दी सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए, लाइक कर दीजिए. अब देखिए, साउथ एशियन लिटरेचर की अगर हम बात करें तो ये जो पूरा ग्लोबल मार्केट प्लेस है ना लिटरेचर का, इन द ग्लोबल मार्केट प्लेस ऑफ लिटरेचर, साउथ एशियन राइटिंग इन इंग्लिश, साउथ एशियन राइटिंग इन इंग्लिश अगर हम बात करें, इन द ग्लोबल मार्केट, अगर इसको कहते हैं ग्लोबल, नाउ अंडरस्टैंड, इन द ग्लोबल मार्केट प्लेस ऑफ लिटरेचर, साउथ एशियन राइटिंग इन इंग्लिश हैज रिसेंटली रिसीव्ड अनप्रेसिडेंटेड अटेंशन. बहुत ज्यादा अटेंशन इस लिटरेचर को हाल में ही मिला है. विद एग्जाम्पल्स आई विल टीच यू. The publication of Salman Rushdie's, the publication of Salman Rushdie's, कौन सा वर्क स्टूडेंट्स? It is the seminal novel, नाम बताए, नाम सब जानते होंगे, Midnight's Children, date is important, 1981. Good morning all of you. The publication of Salman Rushdie's seminal novel Midnight's Children in 1981, as well as the popularity of his subsequent works like Michael Ondaatje का वर्क आपको याद है, who got the Booker Prize for the English Patient. Michael Ondaatje, यहाँ लिख लीजिए, मैं शॉर्ट में लिख दूं या टाइम लगेगा. Michael Ondaatje का जो बुकर प्राइज मिला है उनको फॉर द इंग्लिश पेशेंट, द इंग्लिश पेशेंट, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, दैट इज 1992. Now, apart from this, Arundhati Roy's Booker Prize for The God of Small Things. Note it down. Arundhati Roy's God of Small Things in 1997. Then don't forget Jhumpa Lahiri's Pulitzer Prize for Interpreter of Melodies. All these you have to know if you are preparing for this topic, for this examination or for any examination. Jhumpa Lahiri's Interpreter of Melodies, और date है 2000, for which she got the Pulitzer Prize. And yes, how can we forget V.S. Naipaul's Nobel Prize for Literature in 2003. V.S. Naipaul Nobel Prize in 2003. These students are some of there may be many more, but I have just filtered that these are some of the notable highlights that have actually anchored मतलब होता है जगह बनाई है, खूंटा जमाया है, a place for South Asian writing in English on the international literary scene. Fine. So you have to remember these things particularly, very important. Now, while the novel and to a lesser extent the short story, अगर हम novel की बात करें, short story की बात करें, these are the two genres that are actually most widely circulated. They are most widely consumed. So it is very important to note here that there is a substantial amount of writing in English in other genres as well. And what are those other genres? Poetry, drama, autobiography, travelogues. They also vividly render the South Asian imagination. Matlab, these genres also come under the umbrella of South Asian imagination. So, while contemplating the scope, while contemplating the limitations of each of the genres which enable a richer, more comprehensive approach to the study of South Asian literature in English. So, the South Asian experience actually imagined in English rehearses numerous silent characteristics, increases numerous characteristics. बहुत से ऐसे वर्क्स हैं जो हमें attention देते हैं. Many works they call attention to the idea of empire and to integrate what? To integrate the colonial moments of the subcontinent's history, the struggle for independence, the contentious saga of the partition of India and Pakistan in 1947, the mass migration of Hindus and Muslims on both sides of the newly created borders, जो नए borders बन गए थे, and the ensuing violence. All these things which you have already seen, which you have already read, they have found provocative expression. कैसा expression? Provocative expression in the literature of India as well as the literature of Pakistan. And if I talk about the ethnic tensions of Sri Lanka, the long-standing conflict between Sri Lankan government and the Tamil Tiger rebels that has claimed more than 60,000 lives. And apart from taking the 60,000 lives, it has displaced more than 1.5 million people. 1.5 मतलब होता है 15 लाख लोगों को बेघर कर दिया अपने घरों से. उनको उनकी आवाज, they have found voice in the Sri Lankan literature. And yes, a brutal civil war fought for independence from Pakistan has figured in the Bangladeshi literary imagination. If I talk about ideas of nationalism and the attempts to define the new nations have also been important concerns for everybody. Because if I talk about the atrocities, the vulgar atrocities, the rampant communalism has been continuing to thwart the secularism and the growing sensitivity to the rights of women, and this enfranchised minorities are actually the vital issues that have been consistently and systematically represented in the literature. अगर हम कुछ वर्क्स की बात करें तो social and the political issues, social and the political events are written large. They are presented on a grand scale in sagas, in other works, and they are even, distilled into images that depict the mundane business of everyday living, which also focuses on the issues of identity, focuses on the collective and the individual, or the local and the foreign, in the attempt to exploit the points of collision. Yes, don't forget the religion and politics. And this religion and politics, they begin to matter profoundly as discussions of progress are confronted with the ancient traditions. So, साउथ एशियन हम राइटर्स की बात करें, साउथ एशियन ऑथर्स की बात करें, उनकी जो राइटिंग है इन इंग्लिश, दे एक्चुअली आर टेंडिंग टू फेवर अ सेकुलर ह्यूमनिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव. So this is what is the basics of the South Asian literature. Now, apart from this, you can say, you can understand that the settings of the narratives are as varied as the themes. जैसे अगर हम बात करें हरी कुंजरूज नॉवेल, हरी कुंजरू का नाम सुना है आपने? हरी, how many of have heard this name? Hari Kunzuru's novel, The Impressionist. The Hari Kunzuru's novel, The Impressionist. For instance, he stretches from the Rajasthan desert, Agra, Fatehpur, Bombay to London, Oxford, and finally to the remote West African landscape. एक और बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट नाम है हनीफ कुरैशी. हनीफ कुरैशी का नाम आपने सुना होगा. हिज वर्क इज सेट प्राइमरीली इन ब्रिटेन. ठीक है. अगर हम झुंपा लहरी की बात करें तो झुंपा लहरी की जो शॉर्ट स्टोरीज हैं, दे टेक प्लेस in the urban American as well as the India settings. एक नाम है कमीला शामसी. कमीला शामसी की एक वर्क है जिसका नाम है इन अ सिटी बाय द सी. इन अ सिटी बाय द सी, इसको नोट कर लीजिए आप. इन अ सिटी बाय द सी, दिस नॉवेल इज सेट इन कराची एंड इट इज रिटन बाय कमीला शामसी. Kamila Shamsi, set in Karachi. Set in Karachi. Now, आपको याद होगा सलमान रश्दी की एक नॉवेल है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट, उसका नाम है शेम. I am taking all those names, all those important works which are important for all the examinations of English. Salman Rushdie's Shame. Salman Rushdie's Shame is, yes, obviously that is set in Pakistan, but the narrator goes through the great pains, बहुत तकलीफों से गुजरता है, to tell us that the country is not Pakistan at all, but an altogether एक काल्पनिक जगह है. It is a fictitious place. जबकि जो दूसरे लोग हैं, yet others such as R.K. Narayan, he create wholly imaginary locales for their stories. So although this entire encyclopedia is clearly limited to South Asian writing in English, it is important, it is necessary to point out that the various writers use the English language in distinct ways. Many of the writers incorporate the syntax of everyday speech, or they use the Indianized words and phrases in their own text. And some writers prefer to use a standard, a formal version of the language, while other writers, they try to experiment with the normative register and they try to attempt to use the language in the you can say brave new ways. So though the popularity of South Asian writing in English, जो आज हमारा टॉपिक है, it can be attributed to the fact that there is a definite context for this literature. And the rise which you have seen, एक word होता है इंग्लिश में जिसका नाम है monumental. The monumental rise of the South Asian novelist in particular has appropriately enough been compared to the burgeoning of the Latin American novelists of the 70s and the 1980s. Moreover, the Trinity represented by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, जिसको मार्केज कहते हैं, Carlos Fuentes and Mario Vargas Llosa, they epitomized the novel tradition because they were regarded as the unofficial historians for their countries where political upheavals, military dictatorship had silenced individual voices. So, South Asian writers in English, they can be seen as the alternative interpreters of the subcontinent's many histories. उनका जो रिप्रेजेंटेशंस है वो बहुत मैटर करता है, प्रोफाउंडली मैटर करता है, क्योंकि उनके अंदर वो ताकत है, एज दे आर एबल टू envision the various registers and the textures of the experiences of a very vast and complicated region. Fine, but what about the future of the South Asian writing in English? Can anybody tell me? How many of you can tell me what about the future of South Asian writing in English? क्या ये South Asian writers कभी भी they will be able to sustain, will they be able to sustain their imaginative paradigms and persist in producing the writing of high quality? क्या वो ऐसा कर पाएंगे? And is this to influence the future generations around the world? ये सब questions हैं, लेकिन हाल में in recent years the overwhelming literary and the commercial success of the South Asian novel, जो पिछले दिनों में बहुत ज़बरदस्त commercial success हुआ है, overwhelming success मिली है, has meant big prizes and big advances for the writers and huge profits even for publishers, क्योंकि इतना ज़्यादा million copies में लोगों ने बेचा है. So literature in other genres, अगर हम लिटरेचर की बात करें अदर genres में, so they still lag far behind, although it is gradually getting noticed in various academic circles. ये बहुत difficult है जज कर पाना. It may be difficult to judge the staying power of all the individual writers or to judge a long-term relevance of particular works, but it is actually obvious, even from a cursory appraisal, given the brilliance, the sophistication of this literature, not to mention the volume of ongoing imaginative production, that South Asian literature will continue to make its mark on the world literary canvas. And within South Asia, अगर हम South Asia के within की बात करें, generally speaking, economic development has had a very positive impact on the cultural development in the last 5 decades. South Asia has also generated more and more intellectuals who have turned their attention to artistic expression. अगर हम diasporic South Asians की बात करें, if I talk about the diasporic South Asians, the trend some 20 years ago, आज से 20 साल पहले, it was to pursue professions in science, it was to pursue professions in engineering. Now the trend has changed. यद्यपि कि वो change हुआ है marginally, but there is an increasing number of second generation immigrants who are encouraged by their parents to study the arts. And professions such as writing, such as filmmaking are less often considered perfunctory. जिसके अलावा भी the literary audience around the world has become, you can say, globally they are aware. And others, basically यहाँ पे हम ये बताने की आपको और कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि since English literature in South Asia has gained prominence, has gained a lot of magnitude, a lot of momentum, particularly after the end of British colonialism of that region, that is post 1947. So a majority of the entries, they are focusing on contemporary authors, on literary issues. And yes, it has been actually a very conscious effort